Thank you. I'm also the stand-in tonight, so more on that later over drinks. Okay. Stories are how people make sense of the world. Dr. Walter Fisher, a communications theorist, says that we experience life as a series of ongoing narratives, as conflicts, characters, beginnings, middles, and ends. Essentially, we're not just Homo sapiens, we're Homo narrans. Also, storytelling holds communities together. It's actually the glue that actually keeps us kind of running and chugging along. It builds our identities, it helps us construct meaning and pass on tradition. So it's very important that we get the context of stories explained in this opening. What my theory is that storytelling should really be brought back into the table, because although technology is technology, design, oh, let's catch up with technology, storytelling's been around for a long, long time, and so it's very important to keep up with that. If we want to really look at that, we have to kind of put our little anthropology hats on and rewind 17,000 years back to Lascaux in France to cave paintings. This is the first example of human storytelling, where people went into caves with flickering lights and are like, ooh, that's interesting. There's the animals we kill every day. And that's the best kind of story. So this is the first example of storytelling. The next storytelling example I'm going to bring is the oral tradition. Oral traditions where people basically, we know it in Ireland, they pass on tradition generation to generation via various tools such as folk songs, ballads, chants, etc. What's really important about this is it's most commonly referenced by the bard, and the bard will come up later. This is a technology that's normally known as a technology, but the written alphabet basically replaced the oral tradition as the main thing that went around. And in 850 BC, Homer the bard, he wrote the first work of Western literature, the Iliad. The Book of Kells, very close to us here in Trinity. This is the first example of graphic design. Again, storytelling made a jump with technology. Circa 800 AD. It's an illustrated manuscript, and it could be one of the first examples of graphic design. The next thing we're going to talk about is the printing press, and that was brought about by Gutenberg in 1438. He revolutionized text and reproduced it millions and millions of times across the world. In fact, he was responsible for a scientific revolution for lots of poor people learning how to be literate, which I'm poor, don't get me wrong. And then finally, he actually, I'm jumping. So the 20th century, we jumped to the 20th century where there's a plethora of different technologies that came about. Television, video, radio, etc. So the bottom line is with this technology is we know it very familiar, but story was repurposed, just like the Hitchhiker's Guide. Linear storytelling, all the ones so far, beginning, a middle, and an end. It's a plot thing. It's all about you walk away as an audience member with closure, and you go, oh yeah, I got exactly what the director was trying to tell me. Well, later on in our century, in the last century as well, the internet came along and kind of changed things a bit. It made things more interactive. In fact, terms like digital storytelling and interactive storytelling came about. That changed things because there's lots of technologies where people are talking. In fact, we are the new bards. We're tweeting right now. We're talking all the time. So the problem with that medium, it's not really a problem, but it's a non-linear storytelling format. Plot goes out the window, and without plot, it kind of ruins the good story. So it's very important to bring back certain aspects of storytelling into our design work on a day-to-day basis. And that's where I'm going with this. What's the story? As you approach a design project, don't go blindly into it listening to the stakeholders. Step back and examine what is actually the purpose, what's the concept, what is the idiom, what is the genre, what is the tone. There's many books out there about film, etc., theater, etc., that can actually inform us as designers. The first step is to discover the actual story. Have conceptual story explorations with your clients. It's great. Ask them to solve the problem for you and put it back to them and get very creative with it. It's very good what you can do. The next step is to actually sit down and map out the story world. And that sounds pretty trippy, doesn't it? But the bottom line is you got to work out what the ecosystem is. Who's playing in this ecosystem? Where are the touch points? Ooh. But once you start mapping this out, it's kind of common sense. It's all in front of you and it's laying out there. And just like a play director would do, you start characterizing the actual characters and you go, ooh, the personas, who are they? But don't forget that the business stakeholders also have a point of view, and storytelling is all about point of view too. So it's very important to consider them. The next thing that you have to do is to outline a basic plot. And this is what we know in interaction design as key path scenarios. But the bottom line is make sure that you're thinking about exactly where the user is going with the story or in their story world and deliver it to them, give them what they expect. If they don't go in the key path, well, maybe they veer off the path, but at least your story world is so colored with different aspects of setting by setting the stage through visual design, through tone, through copy, etc. It's very important to create a holistic picture end to end. Why? Because at the end of the day, the best relationship you can have with your customers is a love story. And when you have a love story, you have people who love you because they're committed to you before you're giving them what they actually want. Because at the end of the day, stuff with deeper meaning and stuff that actually resonates with people and gives them an emotional response is very much more rewarding and meaningful than any other experience I can think of. So don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. Use storytelling in design.